Hi guys. In this video, Clint and I have a conversation about midterm rentals and specifically how to help a long-term rental property owner get exposure to MTR bookings. I call these MTR conversations, and my name is Alan Dwan. My company, Hospi Homes, we manage 30 plus midterm rentals in Los Angeles. And my guest in this video, Clint, he is a member of our school community, which I'll talk a little bit more about shortly. But he is in the Dallas market and he is a real estate investor himself and rents out his properties as midterm rentals. And he has joined our community because he's looking to grow his MTR business, whether that it means buying more properties or co-hosting. Or doing what the industry currently calls lead connecting, something that I could share more about on this channel. So if you're interested, the school community, essentially we do weekly live calls talking about all things MTR. I'm going to have the link in the description right below if you want to join. It's free. Great place to meet others in the MTR business. But check out this conversation. I hope the questions he has and what we talk about is helpful for you and your MTR goals. Cool. So I know you had a few questions. Uh, Let me see. It was in the DM here, right?
Yeah, and I have more on my notepad.
Oh yeah. You know what? Let just I'm not gonna open it. You go for it. Let me know your questions and we'll just go through what you have.
Sure. So I'm in this scenario right now that I met a gentleman from Sylvia.
Okay.
So she was like, "Hey, I'm pretty much busy with my business. If you want to take these guys' properties, maybe you can work out a relationship with him." So I got to meet him in person a few days ago at one of his properties, and he has a beautiful property. So he's trying to do a fix and flip, right? But the market, interest rates and stuff like that. So he's pretty much bleeding.
Got it.
So I said, I can help with that. We can turn it into a midterm rental while you try to sell it, or, maybe if you like the profit you get from midterm rental, you can go that route. So he
Sure.
was open to hear ideas. Um, so I posted on Airbnb and Furnish Finder, and we did find someone that did a tour today.
Okay.
That they really like the property and say we're negotiating on a rental rate.
Got it.
Um, the thing is, the guy he wants to know like what type of fee would I charge him, right?
Got it.
So I was telling him I could do like a finder's fee, right? Like, hey, I helped you to connect. I charge the 1 month's rent of the finder's fee, and then I'm off hands.
Yep.
Or I can PM it, right? Property
Sure.
management. I think he's looking for the option one, the finder's fee. And then I just wanted to present it to him like I could help you find guests.
Yep.
It's not a problem. But then once I do the handover, then the agreement would be you would give me that one-time finder's fee.
Got it.
So I guess I wanted to present him what options are available, so I can present value to him because he has
Definitely.
multiple properties. Say like he has 6 properties,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're all like long-term rentals or vacant, and he's
Sure.
bleeding money. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to provide him value. So I just want to get
definitely.
your thoughts on that.
No, I think that's a great approach, and what you're thinking, it definitely, in the right direction. So just to make sure I understand, he has these properties as long-term rentals, and he's looking for tenants, but hasn't found tenants for some of them. Is that right?
Yeah. So one is a fix and flip. He
Okay.
wants to sell it, but
All right.
it's not selling, right, due to the
But he has to hold
market.
it down.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not cheap. The house is like
Sure.
$475,000. So interest rates, high price point. He's kind of bleeding.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to help him. Uh,
So he still wants to sell that eventually? Is that his end goal?
so he was saying he would like to sell it, right? But if he can get midterm rental rates, he's
Just
okay with
keep
it.
it. Yep. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Totally. Awesome. I get it. Yeah. So what you're saying is spot on. Is under you want to always like one thing I learned about sales, like there's explicit sales calls, right? Like for someone reaching out to me and say, "Hey, I saw something. I'm interested in your services. Can we have a call?" Right? Then
Mhm.
me and the other person go into it, we know what that call's about. But really, the way I think of it, like sales now, I used to have this, I think a lot of people have this view of sales, like it feels like you're kind of pushy and trying to
Yeah.
take things from people. but I've learned sales is really about offering solution that you have that could help someone. And for me, that makes me feel more confident doing sales because I'm actually, it's not like I'm like, oh, I feel bad, give me money, I feel bad. It's like I
Hmm.
have something that can help them. So even though this was not like a specifically like a sales call, I think the sales kind of approach is always there, which is not that you're trying to get them to buy something, but understanding what their problems are, their pain points,
Hmm.
and then offering solutions, right? Even if
Yeah.
the solution is like something that you can't do, right? If it's like I have, I might be talking to someone and I might tell them, you know what? I think that property is best as an unfurnished long-term rental. I think that's the best use of it, right? I
Ah, I
get the
gotcha.
gain, but it is still offering that, that value. So, yeah, so I think it's great that the way you're approaching this opportunity. Um, you mentioned that it seems like they're more interested in that, referral fee kind of,
Hmm. Hmm.
kind of arrangement, which is
Hmm.
great. The way I see the difference there is, do they want to be hands-on, right, and be a landlord, managing tenants, managing maintenance, all that stuff. If they
Hmm.
do, then it makes sense they would pick that option. Um, does he does it seem that way that he like that's not a pain point for him to have to manage tenants and kind of do all that stuff? Is he already a landlord for other properties that he's managing himself?
Well, he was saying that he does have like PMs that he work with.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So that's interesting. I'm pretty sure what he means is long-term rental PMs.
Yeah, yeah, long-term
Yeah.
rental. Yeah, not mid-term.
So yeah, there's a lot of overlap, right? Obviously, scheduling and maintenance, issue is similar, a long-term
Hmm.
and midterm. Um, I'm kind of giving like a bunch of like orbiting kind of, like answers around this question.
Yeah,
Uh,
of course.
someone who knows midterm rentals, well, let me put it this way. A long-term rental property manager does not know how to find midterm rental bookings. I would say
Yes.
once the person rents and they move in, it's pretty similar, right? But that
Hmm.
marketing is very different. I've had many property owners I've talked to who have said like, "Oh yeah, I have a long-term rental, like traditional long-term rental property manager who's managing my midterm rental, trying to find bookings for it, right?
Oh, okay.
Right?" And then they struggle because they might think, "Oh yeah, Airbnb furnish finder," and they just put it there and that's it.
Mhm.
Um, so that's one thing that I don't know if this becomes if the owners decides to do Mitchell moving forward, that could be I guess if you help them do the marketing, then maybe it's fine, right? Um,
But I think there's going to be some gray areas, right? So
yeah,
he's like, now he wants me to talk to the future tenant and talk about a lease agreement, right? And what he's going to pay. I'm like, well, that's kind of a gray area. That's
yes,
beyond
no,
the
no,
finder's fee.
you're right, you're right. So, to answer your question more specifically, yeah, if you're doing just a finder's fee situation, it really is. I mean, I guess I'm trying to think like the specific point when they owe you the money, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
if someone just says, "Hey, I'm interested, I want to rent," and then you connect them to hit him or his PM, and then
Hmm.
maybe you say like once the lease is signed, then they owe you the money, right? Then it's like something like that.
Okay.
But you're right. It's you know what? I don't do this business model, so
Oh, okay.
so I don't know like what the best practice is because naturally I imagine. I'm trying to think of the flow of like that, from inquiry to booking. At what point does it make sense for you to be like, I'm done with it. Now it's his.
Uh, yeah,
Because
because I feel like that's a gray area, right? Now you want me
yeah,
to
yeah,
do, background check and all this. That to me, that
yeah,
doesn't include the finder's fee. That should be separate.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
You're right. Because
I
but
don't know.
then you have to talk about pricing a little bit with this person, right? Because obviously
Yeah,
it's marketed at a certain rate, and they might have
that's
additional
true.
questions.
That's true.
Um, yeah, good question. I would. So I think if you kind of like, wrote out kind of like what it would look like, because I kind of think of it like there's a timeline for this booking, I kind of like the flow, and
Mm,
at some point you gotta put a line in it and say this is where I stop and they take over,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And maybe just since this is my first time, maybe I do the background check and run everything, and then it build that trust with him.
yeah. I think in
Just
general
thinking
it's always uh okay to do more
the first time.
like a temporary thing, right? one of the common questions people might have asked in the office hour is like onboarding fee for co-hosting. So we didn't always charge one, we do now, but
Mm,
like you cannot charge an onboarding fee, for example, because you're trying to get clients, and then later on you could change that, right?
makes sense. Makes sense.
I would say just communicate that, right? Especially if you think you'll work with them more. Um, yeah, and then whatever arrangement, even if you plan to do more this first time, I think that you still need that clarity of like, here's what I'm gonna do, and then here's when you take over, and when when you kind of owe me, right, the finder's fee. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah. Um,
I'm writing that down. It's good stuff.
yeah, no, yeah, go for it. Yeah. It's, these things are like so many of these type of questions, there's no one right way, right? I think
Yeah,
it's like the concepts of like what works well and like why it might work and not work. Um, but ultimately, this is also something I've learned in my own business. Like you got to do things to find out what works, right?
that's true.
Like we can sit all day planning, 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 and then we never know what works until we go into the marketplace and like help people. Yeah. So this will be, kind of your first one where you'll kind of figure stuff out.
Yeah. And I'm taking it as a learning experience too.
Definitely. Yeah.
Learning to find, like you said, watching your videos. I'm hunting mode right now.
Yeah,
So
definitely. And you're
definitely
you're
hunting.
polishing your skills as you do it. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Another question for you.
Yeah.
So we found this booking on Airbnb, right? He did the tour, so now we got his number. So now
Yes.
we can take it off platform, which is great. He said that it's for his business. Like, well, he works for a company. They're going to pay for the rental amount every month, for example. Um, I guess how would we structure it if it's like credit card payments? Do you recommend a tool like Stripe or something like that? Because that
Yeah,
landlord, he has
yeah.
no clue how to take credit card payments, right? He's just used to, you know.
Yeah, so if it's a finder's fee situation, I think, like you said, it is going to be about how the landlord will take payments, right? Ultimately,
hmm
that's
hmm
the question for him. How
hmm
does he normally take payments from his like long-term tenants? Do you know?
I believe ACH.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So that is an option. Um, But yeah, for your specific situation, I think, like we could go talk about all the different ways that I could recommend if you were doing it yourself, like if you're
hmm
co-hosting. But in this situation, if it's going to be just like a finder's fee that you charge, then I think you have to check with that landlord, right? How he accepts it. Um, if if the landlord is like, I guess if you get to the point where you're helping them figure out some other payment methods, I think the simplest thing is not Stripe, but like kind of like Inago and like those long-term rental platforms, because they all have like rent collection like a feature in it. And
Okay.
Stripe is really, yeah, as a standalone, it's not the best. Like I think Stripe is popular because it integrates with a lot of systems, which is why we use it.
Okay.
But I wouldn't recommend it as like a standalone payment processor. Uh,
Makes sense.
yeah, and then like something like Inago then will see, that's also kind of gray area, right? Because if you set that up, then you're collecting their rent ongoing, which doesn't make sense. So I would say,
That makes sense. That
if
makes sense.
anything, you're going to recommend to this
I
owner
could tell them,
that you
hey,
could use an app like
Nago.
Nago, Avail, all of these kind of apps that accept
Good.
types of payments. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. And then how did you get into the MTR world? That's one of
Oh,
my
yeah, great
questions.
question.
hmm
Man, I'm trying to think of like how to summarize. So I got started with a couple of friends in 2017 doing rental arbitrage, short-term rentals, by Disneyland, right? Kind of an obvious place for
Oh,
short-term rentals.
nice.
So obviously before the pandemic, and so this is the rental arbitrage. Like it's kind of funny. I call it the OG method, where you just
hmm
sign up as a 12-month lease as a tenant and you sublet, right? It's like a full-time arbitrage. Um, we purposely chose so Anaheim is very strict about short-term rentals, but we picked a city right outside of Anaheim that didn't have any regulations, so still very close by. And
mm
we got from 2017 up to the pandemic, so a little over 2 years, we got up to 13 apartments, all in one building.
Wow.
Um, and they were doing great. That's how we kept getting more and more. I quit my W-2 when we were at seven units. And this was August 2019, right? So a few months before the pandemic. And because I went into it full time, I was really aggressive. We got six more apartments by January. and then 2 weeks
Wow.
later, Disneyland closes, right? Uh,
Oh, yikes.
so the question of how I got into midterm rentals, it's partly out of necessity because of the regulations in a lot of cities here.
Hmm.
So as we were kind of recovering from that, we moved out of all those apartments because Disneyland wasn't reopening. And then we had all this furniture. So we started doing arbitrage in other properties around LA. And we
Mm.
found a lot of these opportunities we had were in cities where you can't short term. So at the
Ah, okay.
time, the term midterm rentals wasn't really popular yet. We just viewed it as a long Airbnb stay. So we started doing that 30-day minimum just because we had to. Um, yeah, and then of course during the pandemic, a lot of the economic shifts also created more demand for midterm rentals, right? Like for 3 years post-pandemic, it was like travel nurses, so much demand. So we had one bedrooms that were doing really well because of that, and then that went away in 2023. So yeah, so I would say the pandemic and the regulations of SoCal is what shifted me from short term to midterm.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things where there's so many short-term rental operators now who are learning MTRs because it's kind of an obvious tool to add to the tool belt, right? Like especially short-term rentals that are seasonal, they want longer stays, midterm rental stays in the off season. Um, yeah, so I would say I made that shift because I had to earlier, and then the past few years, a lot of and I think also regulations have gotten stricter just across the country.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the midterm rental is kind of like a loophole, right? Or a gray area.
Yeah, it is. It's a way where, if you have a property that's already furnished, and then like the regulations say no more short term, you don't have to sell everything. You could like, well, let me just pivot to midterm. That's like the next obvious thing if it has demand. Um, and then so there's that situation where people like just last week I talked to someone in Orange County here. His properties have to be all converted to midterm. So he's like, oh no, what do I do? So there's that
Mm,
situation where you go full midterm, and then there's the ones, of course, that are still short term, but they like to mix in some of the midterm.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Like the hybrid model strategy.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. How about working with relocation specialist? Do you charge the operator like a one-time finder's fee, or you work with the specialist and try to make a spread? I just wanted to get your thoughts on
So
that.
this is like when someone reaches out to housing that we manage, like that situation.
Like, I've been working with a few relocation specialists, and I let them know, like, hey, let me know if any properties are in the Texas area, because I know MTR operators. My goal is to get them to connect. Then once they connect and the guest likes that property, how should I do, I guess, the structure
Yeah,
both
yeah.
sides?
So there's generally currently in the industry there's two ways, right? There's a finder's fee like you talked about, which
Hmm.
is you generally make less, but once you hand it over, you're done, right? You move on.
Hmm.
And then the one that's popular these days is that reverse arbitrage strategy where you essentially sublet the property for the length of that stay and you make the difference, right?
Okay.
Do you understand what I mean by that, or do you want me to explain?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so that's kind of two approaches. That one takes much more work. You're involved in during the entire stay. Like the tenant probably will ask you questions. You're kind of there to help them. Um, but you make more, right? That's the kind of idea. So
And higher risk,
yes, they're
right?
definitely right. Always right.
Hmm.
More risk, right? That's how the world works. But I think both those strategies, it all starts with the same thing, which is you finding like, leads, people who need housing. So I think it comes down to like I would say it comes down to how much you want to make that your business, right? Some
Hmm.
people, I'll give you an example. Some people, that's their like let's say the reverse arbitrage. That's their business. That's the only thing they do. So they just do
Oh,
a lot of that, right? I think there's power, like in the beginning, I think it makes sense to try different things to figure out what you enjoy and like what you have a knack for. But at some point, you got to focus in and do, I would say, even one thing versus a handful of different things.
it's true.
Right. So, like, let's say you're co-hosting a little bit, and then you're doing some lead connecting, making some money there, and maybe you're buying your own properties too, right? At some point, you kind of you'll reach kind of a bottleneck where the everything can't kind of each of those strategies can't really like you can't grow in that strategy because the other things you're doing are holding you back, right? So you got to make that
That makes
choice.
sense.
I'm not in the lead connecting. referral fee for reverse arbitrage, all that business. So I don't do any of that because I'm focused on just property management.
Property
So to
management.
answer your question, you know, when I'm essentially on the other end, I have people who come to us who do the reverse arbitrage. So like there's one guy named
Uh,
Charlie out here. Currently, we have a booking through him where he is it kind of gets a little like complicated to me a little bit, but I'm okay with it. But essentially, there's
mhm,
the family living, it's insurance placement, family in the home.
mhm.
The mom is like the point of contact. There's us and my team. There's Charlie, who was like the lead connector, and then Charlie with whatever relocation company he's working with, right? That we don't know because that's the whole point of it all. So like when there's been issues where there's some maintenance needs for the family, and then they will come to us naturally, but they also go to Charlie and say, hey, they're not helping me with my maintenance, and Charlie will contact me saying, hey,
Uh-oh.
they're complaining to me. I'm like, all right, we'll take care of it.
Mhm.
That's kind of how that all ends up. Um, yeah, so building out that process for reverse arbitrage, if you're considering it, I think it makes sense if you're gonna do a lot more of it, right? But if you do it every now and then, it might feel like a lot of work to build the systems for it. Um, People do it though because the money is good, right? Like you can make a few $1,000s a month on a great, insurance booking. So I get why everyone's rushing to that space. Uh,
But isn't it high risk? Like if the
it
tenant
is,
doesn't pay,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or
But I think you can like anything, right? Like I'm sure they've thought about it and they figured out contractually or like the SOP or the process what they do in what order to protect themselves, or maybe something where like if that lead kind of falls through, then they're allowed to cancel the lease, something, right? But yeah, there's more risk, but I think it's you could come up with kind of like policies and stuff like that to mitigate it. My point is it's a lot more kind of administration you need to do, uh, which to me at least, when I think big picture is only worthwhile, or at least more worthwhile if you plan to do a lot more of those. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if that answered your question. It might be kind of
No,
a
it does. It
direct answer.
does.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was very helpful.
Yeah.
Uh, um, yeah, I was just reading my notes. Do
Yeah.
you have like top platforms like a newbie should use, like your top five, like say Hospitable, Turno, Turbo Tenant, like do you have
So
like
this
a
is like
top
the tech
five?
stack, like apps and stuff like that.
Yeah, like a newbie
Yeah.
package
Yeah,
recommendation.
yeah. So Hospitable is the one I would recommend, especially for someone who's new, but it's powerful enough for you to grow as well. So you can
Okay.
have like dozens of properties and it still works fine. The reason why I recommend it is that so this is one of those things where unless someone has actually tried other options, you can't really compare, right? I
That's
haven't
true.
tried all of them, but I use Hostfully and I use Hospitable. I used to use Logify, but I'm sure it's changed since then. But just with those
Mhm.
comparisons and some of the
Yeah.
ones I've seen, I think a lot of other PMS systems are not as user friendly in the design,
Mm.
and there's so many options where it's kind of overwhelming how to get into it, right? So I think the like ease of use and like the learning curve is probably easier with Hospitable. Um, I do really like their team, and I think like any kind of small business, when they have a great team, I think they have a good future ahead of them. Like the features they're adding, the things they're working on is really, I think, like what the market needs. So I like that. A lot of the other stuff, I would say is
Price Labs?
price labs, definitely for short-term rentals.
Mhm.
You can use it for midterm. I have not. I've experimented with it, but I
Mhm.
think with midterm rentals, because it's not like built for midterm rentals, I think what I recommend is understanding how to do pricing strategy manually with midterm rentals first, and then you could go see if price apps could do that for you to save you time. But
Ah,
I think the
okay.
danger people make, because with price labs, if you have a short-term rental, you could kind of turn it on and go by its recommendations and just, okay, works pretty good. But that's a danger with midterm where if someone just uses it for midterm rental and just turns it on and like trusts in it, it can price certain months really high, right? Because let's say there's a given week where there's like an event in your area and the short-term rates are super high for that week.
Mm.
but then it inflates that month, right? And it's not
Okay.
because no one's gonna book a whole month for that, that weekend event maybe. Yeah, so I would definitely say it's not necessary from MTR. Um, like Turno, it's great that there's like a checklist. So
Hmm.
if that's what you use it for, I think it's great. We use Breezeway, which is like a beefed up version of Turno. It does the same type of thing. Uh,
Breezeway. Okay.
yeah, but ge in general, like cleaning inspections, the checklists are very powerful. I think Turno does this as well, where the cleaners can send you photos as like accountability, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Unless you're going to properties. Sorry, I'm kind of talking now from like co-hosting kind of perspective, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Unless you're going to the properties yourself to check them after every clean, the photos help you have accountability. Um, Otherwise, I would say, something like Inago is also worthwhile because it's so low cost. So that could help with
Okay.
background checks, the monthly automated payments, leases, right? Kind of brings multiple things into one platform, so you don't have to have other options.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Writing that down. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Let me ask, so, of all these different ways to kind of do MTR businesses or make money with MTRs, do you have a strategy that you feel like you want to focus on?
Good question. So currently I have two MTRs that I manage myself and I own.
Yep.
So that's my number one priority, right?
Yep.
I would love to scale that and grow over time.
Yeah.
And then I guess my second one is co-hosting. So I co-host one property
Yep.
currently. It's a guy, he does short-term rentals, but he is open to MTR. So I've been doing that for a couple
You're
months.
co-hosting it as a short-term rental?
Yes,
Okay.
co-hosting as an MTR,
Yeah.
short-term rental. I did tell him about the MTR route. He is open to it, but he's got so many short-term bookings, you can't
I mean,
fill those
ultimately,
gaps.
it's like if he can make more money, that's probably what he cares about, right? Uh,
That's pretty much, yeah.
so yeah,
But I see like all the turnover and the cleaning fees, and I'm like, ugh,
I
I
remember
don't
those
want,
days. It's
I
crazy.
don't want to do that. But I'll co-host.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I found out about this new route,
yeah,
hey, talking with long-term owners and
yep,
trying to get them converted over to MTRs, but
yeah,
just learning that strategy because that's new to me, right?
yeah,
First time I met this guy, I'm just trying to help him,
yeah,
and I just want to show him value and build his
definitely.
trust because he has six properties, and I think, I can do well in that realm.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm good with talking and communicating with people.
cool.
So that's what I'm trying to do, build that relationship. And I created that MTR spreadsheet.
Yep,
And some folks are putting their information in there, which is great. So if I do get a lead from a relocation specialist, I can connect them and maybe do a one-time finder's fee. So that's
sure.
currently what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, yeah. That's how a lot of people have started, right? It's like you get people's property information, and then if you happen to get leads, then you can make a connection. And then, let's say that person realizes like, hey, I really like this model, I want to do more of it. Then those purposely go out there to start finding those leads, right?
Mm,
Make it their
hmm.
their main thing. Um, cool. Yeah, I think I think it's great that you're
Trying different things
dabbling in all of the different
to
ways,
see which
right?
one I
Because
like the
yeah,
most.
exactly right. Because you won't know unless you try it.
It's true.
Um, and then also, whether you do the lead connecting or co-hosting, that could also be the way you make money to buy more of your own properties, right? If that's your main goal. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, cool.
Sweet. That was all my questions. You got any questions for me?
I don't think anything else at this point. I always ask about the question of goals because it helps me know how to help you guys better. Like, you are I guess you're in the same market as Sylvia, right? So I have
Hmm.
referred people to her. I'm kind of curious actually. Did Celia was she not interested in helping this because I feel like it seems like it might
Uh,
fit her goals as well. This
yeah, I think it was kind of out of her range,
oh
the
like
properties.
the location?
Yeah, the location.
Got
They
it.
say
Okay.
it's like pretty far for her. So she was
Okay.
like, I know you're new if you're willing to take it. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Is
yeah,
it
I'll
not
take
in is it not in Dallas?
Yeah, it's a little outside of Dallas.
Okay.
So it is a bit of a drive when I went to it, but I mean, I'm just trying to learn and I'm willing to
Yeah,
take whatever I can get.
that's fine.
And like use her as as a mentor as well, just to learn from her and pick up stuff. But like you said, it's very interesting, the
Cool.
MTR market and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you how I fell into it. I think we did on the last call. Like I was on the
Uh,
other side of the spectrum,
yeah, that's right.
whenever I
Yeah.
recall. So
That's similar
those,
to Miguel, right? Yeah.
yeah,
It's unique when you guys have that perspective, which is, I think, does help you connect with the families.
yeah, absolutely. And my two properties, they were long-term rentals, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna switch them to MTRs.
Nice. Nice. When did you switch up? How long ago?
Um, about 3 months ago.
Okay.
So yeah, once they left, the Airbnb booking for the first one, it was a company that works with Amazon,
Nice.
building a new facility. So I was trying to build that relationship with
Yeah.
them. And I try to reach out every now and then. Hey, how's it going? I got some new properties. If you got
Yeah.
anything in the area, so I try to keep in touch with that one. And then this one for my second property is a 3-month insurance claim.
Okay.
She had a flood, so she's currently in my property for 3 months. And then that relocation specialist, since he already booked with my property, that's the one I'm working with to try to get other leads.
Got it. Yeah. I think that's a great way. I think it's, there's nothing wrong with cold outreach, but I think when you've already worked with someone like that and you've already helped them one time, I just like that's more effective than cold outreach. Yeah. So awesome.
Absolutely.